Hi, welcome to Morningsun Herb Farm. My name is Rose Laval. I own Morningsun Herb Farm and I have this amazing lavender field here. Today we're going to make my favorite thing in the world, lavender ice cream. Now to start making lavender ice cream, you need to decide on the correct variety of lavender. So we are going to use Lavandula angustifolia, which is English lavender, very important. This will have a sweet flavor. If you use the lavandins or a Spanish lavender, it's going to taste like a pine tree. So if pine tree ice cream is your favorite, go for it. But if you want a sweet floral flavor of lavender, you're going to use English lavender. To my left, I have the lavender I typically use, which is the Hidcote Blue lavender. This lavender is ready to dry now. It's actually starting to be past due for drying, so the flowers are just about spent, although you see we still have plenty of bees. So I'm going to choose a different English lavender to do my ice cream. Today I'm going to use an English lavender called Violet Intrigue. It's got a little bit shorter, squatter flower. It's not quite as far along, so I have plenty of fresh flowers on it. Now you can make lavender ice cream using fresh or dried lavender. Whenever you can use a fresh herb, it's always preferred. So I'm just going to cut a nice amount. I don't necessarily need this much for one little batch of lavender ice cream, but you know, what the heck? Let's have a little bit extra so we can enjoy it in the kitchen. So with this particular lavender, this Lavandula angustifolia Violet Intrigue, you can see there's still quite a few flowers that are just opening. So this is the corolla here, this little part here. We're not so worried about the flower in making ice cream or in actually making any of our culinary delights with lavender. But it's nice to not have so many flowers that are dried. You can see these are dried here. And they tend to fall off in the ice cream, and they're a lot more work to get out of there. So I prefer to use fresh flowers that don't have too many of these dried flowers with them. So let's take our lavender into the kitchen and let's make ice cream. So making ice cream can be very simple. We're going to start with a hot custard base made with just whipping cream, milk, and a little bit of sugar. So I always go a little bit light on the sugar. I use full whipping cream. I tend to use fat-free milk just because I seem to think that that's going to make the ice cream not so fatty, because I'm going to eat the entire batch and not share it with anyone. So cup and a half and a cup and a half. Cup and a half of whipped cream. And a cup and a half of milk. Again, you can use full fatted milk, 2% milk. And if you're lactose intolerant or don't want to use cow milk, you can always use coconut milk. Rice milk is an excellent substitute in ice cream. Actually, rice milk and almond milk are my two favorites if you're making a non-dairy ice cream. I'm going to add just a half a cup of sugar. Sometimes I add up to 2/3, but I like my ice cream a little less sweet. I'm going to turn it on. So we're going to stir this mixture until we bring it up to about medium-high heat. You never want to bring your milk mixture that you're doing for ice cream to a boil. You want to always do things at about medium-high heat. As soon as we've brought it up to about medium-high temperature, we're going to mix it back into some egg yolks. So for 1.5 cups of milk, 1.5 cups of cream, we're going to add 3 egg yolks to this mixture. This is going to make our custard base, and then we're going to be cooking it for 8 minutes or until it changes texture slightly. So now we're getting ready to finish up the custard, and so the eggs are going to be what's going to give this custard a little bit of feel to it, a little bit of give. So we're going to whisk the egg yolks, just add a little bit of air to them. It doesn't have to be too much. We're going to add a little bit of the hot milk cream mixture in to the whisked egg yolks. So I'm going to take maybe about a half a cup or so of the mixture, and I'm going to slowly add it in, whisking it in. Okay, so first part. And then once we've got that mixture, we're going to take that little bit here and we're going to actually put it back into our main mixture, slowly whisking it in. Now we're going to continue to cook this mixture on about a medium heat. I turned it down for a few minutes just while I was whisking. You don't want to bring this to a boil because all of a sudden you have kind of like curdled egg. So you're going to keep it at a bit of a low temperature, and you're going to stir constantly at a medium heat for anything between usually 6 and 10 minutes. Usually about 8 minutes is perfect. You don't want it to burn on the bottom. You don't want to accidentally curdle those eggs because curdled egg ice cream doesn't sound very good. Until it changes from this texture where it just falls right off. It doesn't form any sort of a line. So you're going to wait and keep doing it until you actually get it to the point where when you have some of the custard mixture on the back of the spoon, it's going to actually form a line that holds up. So this is that time where if you do have a nice cup of wine or glass of wine or cup of beer or a beverage of your choice, of course, it's nice to have it beside you so you can do two things at once, which is always nice. All right, I've been stirring this pot for 8 minutes. And if you could feel what the spoon is like, there's a little bit of, it just is a little bit tougher now to get the spoon through it. There's a little bit of, feels more like a custard. And when I take the spoon up and I see how you get that line that stays. So now it is done as far as the custard is ready. Now from this point, you can do lots of things with this recipe. But we're going to add lavender because that is going to be the most amazing ice cream we can make. So I'm going to make sure you take it off the heat. You're all done, no more heat. Now's when you can add your lavender. And I'm also going to add lemon instead of vanilla. Usually I'll add a teaspoon of vanilla, but I want kind of a lemon lavender flavor. So I'm going to add a little bit, teaspoon of lemon essential oil, or actually this is extract, so not essential oil. I'm going to add a teaspoon. The last thing you want to do is to add the lavender flowers. So you don't add your lavender flowers before this because, as you can see, you've got steam rising, even though we didn't come to boiling. You've got steam rising. If you add your essential oils, which is going to be your lavender flowers, if you would do that at the very beginning, a lot of that essential oil will actually vaporize off. So if you lose the essential oil, you're losing a lot of the flavor. So if you don't want to lose that flavor, make sure you wait till the very end. So from this state, we're going to add our lavender. You can always add dried lavender. I'm going to add fresh lavender, and I'm going to add about the equivalent of 2 tablespoons. Now, I'm one of those cooks that doesn't really measure my herbs too closely. I'm going to just wrap it up a little bit so that it hopefully will be a little bit easier to fish out. I don't mind leaving some little flowers in the ice cream when we actually process the ice cream. So you've got about 2 tablespoons worth of fresh. As soon as I add it, I'm going to go ahead and press it under. I don't want to lose any of the essential oil from that flowers. Of course, the lavender we use, we don't spray it with any chemicals that aren't organic. I don't actually need to spray my lavender with anything. So I did not wash it. It was also above where the dogs can have any problems with it. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to let it cool just on its own for about 2 hours. So I let it come all the way down to room temperature on its own. At that point, I like a pretty strong lavender flavor. Some people will fish this out. They'll actually come back and they'll actually remove the lavender flowers after as little as 30 minutes. Not me. I like a pretty strong lavender flavor. So I'm going to let it actually stay in here the entire time it's cooling down. So I'm going to let it cool for about an hour, hour and a half. Then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for about an hour, because it's nice when you're making your ice cream, you want to start with the custard cold so that the ice cream processes at a relatively quick pace. So for now, we're done. We can go and have another glass of wine or some beer and relax and wait for this to kind of infuse really nicely into our custard base. Okay, we have taken our custard mix with our lavender. We put it in the refrigerator for a couple hours. I took the lavender out of it after 2 hours, and now it's sat in the refrigerator for an extra 2 hours. So it's been in for 4 hours. We've let it cool down, and then we put it in the refrigerator. Now comes the really simple part. We're going to take our mix. I'm going to leave a few of those little flowers you see in there. So little purple flowers, just to give it a little bit of extra color. And we're going to pour it into our ice cream maker. And I remember when I was little, we used to have to hand churn it. That was always a lot of fun. Tonight we're going to cheat though, and we're going to use an electric one. A little bit noisier, of course, than hand churning. And we're going to just get it started here. And depending on what kind of machine you use, it's going to take anything from 15 to 30 minutes. You obviously don't want it to process too quickly, because then it's icy and chunky, but you don't want it to process too slow or everything heats up and it never finishes processing. So I'm going to take my hands off it so it stays nice and icy cold. And we're going to go have another glass of wine, and we're going to wait for the lavender ice cream to be processed. Okay, so after about 25 minutes of processing, we have this wonderful, delicious, creamy looking lavender lemon ice cream. Doesn't that look fabulous? A few little flowers in it. So we're going to turn it off and open it up. Oh, I always like to lick the paddle, but I'll do that when I'm not being filmed. I just want to take a little bit out here. Now you can have it as a soft ice cream here. This little lavender ice cream, you can have this as a soft ice cream, or you can go ahead, take the paddle piece out, of course, just as regular processing when you're finished processing it, and then you can go ahead and just put it in your freezer for a little bit. Nice little lavender beside there. Oh, doesn't that look delicious? So again, you can freeze this for a couple of extra hours if you want a nice solid ice cream. I am an ice cream lover, so as you can tell, I am totally unwilling to wait for that to happen. So I'm going to give it a try. I love ice cream in general. And lavender is such an unusual flavor. When you use the English lavender, though, you get that wonderful floral lavender flavor. It's so wonderful with that little bit of lemon in the background. I hope you try this recipe. You're going to love it. Thanks for watching.